So hey guys, what I want to chat to you about today was London Property Hotspots. I've done a video before which I showed you on a Google map, which is great, but realistically most people don't know London, so they don't know how to relate a map to real life and what it's about. So what I've started doing is just using a simple London tube map, in fact, and you know, when you map it out on this and you see the areas that I go to, you'll get a feel for it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pretty much destroy this map as I explain to you, because what I want to show is not only the areas, okay, and then I'm going to show you not only on the tube map but also on Google, okay. I'm also going to show you on the map on LondonPropertyHotspots.com, which is the new website that I'm putting together specifically about London property, aimed at overseas investors. And so by having all bits of those information, then you've got a much better idea about relating things. Oh, that's there, okay, I've got a better sense. Because realistically, the whole reason I'm doing this, the whole reason I'm out there, and the whole reason I'm in Asia now, pretty much full time. You know, I've been, I think I've been here half my time in the last sort of 6 months. And the interesting thing is that I find that most investors, when they're starting out, they don't have, first of all, they don't have the understanding of the area, and secondly, they don't actually have the understanding that, you know, it's a serious market and you can buy absolute crap and you can buy fantastic property. You know, I think the problem has been is that the approach from international investors, overseas investors, has been, right, as long as it's zone 1, zone 2, it's okay. And that's certainly even the attitude of the banks coming out of Singapore and Malaysia and places like that, is that as long as it's zone 1, zone 2, we'll lend to it. Well, it's not exactly true, because if you know London and you walk around London, you're going to know there's some areas that you don't want to be in zone 1, zone 2, you know, at night, unless you've got, you know, body armour and a bulletproof vest on. And, you know, that's a bit tongue-in-cheek, I agree. But, you know, the actual lesson there is that you need to get a bit more depth, a bit more understanding if you're going to invest in there. Otherwise, you're going in blind. You might as well call it a gamble. And I'm not a gambler. I'm a fundamentals investor. I look for good, solid fundamentals. I look for all the things that go in to make that property, you know, desirable for a tenant, potential for capital growth, potential for regeneration. All these things are going to mean that I maximize my return on my investment. And by doing that, that enables me to live the lifestyle that I've always wanted. And that actually is really probably why we're all doing it. You know, you may have individual reasons, but the real core of it is that you want to create a better lifestyle for yourself, your family, those around you. Okay? So let's have a look at it. Okay, so guys, we're going to start off with, we've got the London Tube map here. Okay, so it's just a standard London Tube map. Literally what I do, and don't tell London Transport this, I send all my staff out that catch the tube and they have to go pick up a handful of these, and this is what I use for all of my presentations now, because it's so simple. And when you look at this, you get a real sense of, you know, you'll see the white bit in the middle is London Zone 1, then you have a grey bit, London Zone 2, then you've got London Zone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? So there's effectively 9 zones, but realistically you're getting quite a way out when you're getting to, you know, 7, 8, 9. But look, for me, you know, the areas that we're looking at are zone 1, 2, 3, potentially 4, depending on, you know, where it is and that. But, you know, they're the sort of areas where I would call, well, certainly London's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, what I call prime central London, okay? A lot of people call prime central London things like Knightsbridge and sort of this area over here, Chelsea, you know, and then a few areas, sort of Bankside now is happening in the city. That's, you know, prime London. But I extend it a little bit, certainly for the you know, the type of investment that we're looking for. Because if you haven't got, you know, 2 million plus, then that sort of area is not really attainable. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to zone in my first London property hotspot, and understand these property hotspots are not hotspots yet. Okay, so get that out of your head that I'm saying that the hotspot is now a hotspot. It's not. We're well and truly in advance of the hotspot happening, but give it time, it will be. Okay, so you'll already see a lot of the fundamentals coming in. I'm going to use a blue pen to mark the areas. I'm then going to use a red pen to mark all the regeneration areas, and then I'm going to show you the reasons why, or some of the reasons why I've picked these areas. Okay, so let's have a look. What I want to do is I want to really zoom in on the area that I'm actually looking at. So let's have a look at the area. Okay, so this is our first area, and I'm just going to hold the map down because this is what I call West London, so my West London property hotspot. Because see, what you've got in here is you've got basically Chelsea and Knightsbridge and High Street Kensington and all those sort of areas. Okay, Kensington. Quite an established, quite a, it's considered prime central London, zone 1, it's all the best properties, but way too expensive, and you're paying for it there. But and I'll explain why I've chosen this area, but where I'm looking at, you've got this this place here. It's called Shepherd's Bush, okay? And there's a big roundabout right in the centre there where the tube station is. The tube station has been redeveloped. All through here is White City, Stratford, sorry, what am I saying? White City, Westfield. It's a brand new shopping centre. Well, it's about a year old now. And it's actually massive, okay? It's I think it's the second largest or largest retail space in Europe. Underground retail space, so it's there. Then where you've got and my area runs all the way out to Ealing Broadway, and then effectively down to Acton, along Hammersmith, and then effectively back up here. All right. So this is the sort of area that I'm looking at now. The actual area that I'm looking at in here and the fundamentals I'm looking at, there's actually a road that runs through the middle here, okay? So along here there's lots of development planned, there's quite a few big sites, and if you have a look, and we'll have a look at the reason why in a second I've chosen this, but effectively what it means is this, and I'll show you this now, alright? If you have a look, alright, at so this map. Now what this tells us effectively is that if you're going to look at our area here, this is Notting Hill, Kensington, Knightsbridge, that's what I'm calling prime central London. Average price per square foot, £1,600, okay? So huge price tag for that. That's the average price per square foot. But if you look, if we just jump over into this grey section here, Shepherd's Bush, Acton, Chiswick, this is the area we're looking at, okay, down to Hammersmith, that area there. Now if we're focusing on that area, if you look at what the price in that area, $625, okay? So there's £1,000 per square foot drop in price. And realistically, on one side of the road is 1,600 average, on the other side of the road, 625 average. So there's a massive drop, and for me, that spells opportunity. And it spells opportunity as long as there's money being spent in that area. Now there is massive amount of money being spent in the area, because coming back to the map, what you've got is Shepherd's Bush. You've got the shopping centre. It's already in there. It's already created jobs. It's already turning the area around from being what used to be called Kangaroo Valley because all the Australian backpackers live there, okay, to what now is actually becoming quite a metropolis, in terms of, Versace and all those sort of brand names are in Westfield, okay? So they're actually right smack bang there. Now, if you go over here to White City is the home of the BBC. Except the BBC are moving it up to Media City in Salford, in Manchester. So what that's going to mean is there's going to be a massive redevelopment there, and that's likely to be residential, commercial, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of potential in this area, and that's one of the reasons why this is one of my hotspots, okay? Now, the issue is if you come down here, this is Chelsea, this is, Hammersmith, this is Chiswick, all very expensive, okay? So I'm not saying down here, if you're buying down there, it's already priced into what you're paying, okay? Coming out here, it's a bit far out, okay? So in this area here is where we're looking. Now, what happens along here, along this road? There's a natural barrier. Along here is residential, it's all developed, not a lot happening there. Up here is the largest industrial park in Europe, okay? So it's called Park Royal. Now, up there, basically what that means is that you've got a natural barrier here, you've got very expensive here, okay, you've got the Thames down here, which is the blue thing running along here. Here's very expensive, there's too far out, so there's a window in here. That is hotspot number one, okay? And the reason obvious for me on this one is because you've got £1,000 per square foot difference from prime central London dropping down to £625 per square foot, okay? So that effectively is why my first area I've chosen. Okay, so let's move on to the second. Okay, so my second one is actually 3 different spots, and when I first started talking about this, I was talking about the 5 London property hotspots. What I've done is combined 3 of them into one area because pretty much it is one area, and I'll show you that area on the map of the per square foot because it'll give you a bit of an idea. So if you have a look on the map, what you're seeing is over here, you're seeing this area here, yeah, which is the southeast, okay, £600 per square foot. That's that whole area there, and that's pretty much where we're looking, from pretty much Elephant and Castle, or Bankside down to Elephant and Castle, along Lewisham to Kidbrooke, and then up to Royal Arsenal, and then all the way around Greenwich, you know, and south of Canary Wharf. So this whole area here. So let's have a look on the map where this is, okay? So if we have a look, we've got London Bridge here, we've got all the Bankside sort of area here, you know, then we come down to effectively Elephant and Castle. So effectively what you've got is that area there, you've got all the way to effectively Lewisham, all right, which basically comes to there. You've got across, and look, Kidbrooke's in here, you've got Woolwich Arsenal, which is Royal Arsenal, and then effectively all the way along here. All right, now I'll explain why this area is my second hotspot. Now, importantly, what I want to say before we go any further is this. Just because I've drawn that whole area in doesn't mean every single area in there I'm going to invest in. Because actually, there's the likes of, you know, let's say in here, where there's not a lot of transport links, you know, there's a lot of council estates, and not much is happening right now. So I wouldn't be touching that with a 10-foot pole, okay? So there's certain areas, and you know, Elephant and Castle is one of them, okay? Elephant and Castle, you've got to get a good deal in there, okay? Because not all the renovation is done, regeneration is done yet. But then, you know, if you look at Lewisham, massive amount. So Lewisham right now, for me, probably a bit expensive if you're getting into the apartments somewhere around there. Greenwich, same story. It's starting to get a little bit expensive. We've actually been investing in Greenwich. We've sold, I would say, probably 300 to 500, I wouldn't, somewhere in that vicinity, flats in that area, okay? This Greenwich Peninsula, because my areas are sort of Elephant and Castle, Greenwich Peninsula, and then out here towards Royal Arsenal and, you know, Kidbrooke and that sort of area. Now, and the peninsula here. Now, what you've got here right now is about 10,000 new homes going in, okay? And effectively, that's a lot of that's already done, so the pricing's already factored in to a degree. There's lots of fundamentals, there's the markets, there's everything happening in this area just underneath Canary Wharf. Because if you have a look, you've got Canary Wharf, the DLR, lots of transport links, okay? So people that work in Canary Wharf, the second financial district of London, okay, they're happy to live here because it's nice, green, and leafy. Next year, this year in 2012, becomes a royal borough of Greenwich. It hosts the Olympics, all that sort of things happening, which is great, okay? Now, for instance, in here, which is the peninsula side of area, I wouldn't touch this right now. There's the O2 Dome, which is great, lots happening there, and lots planned there. There's about 10,000 homes here, okay? Now, and when you go through the regeneration, you'll see the sort of thing that's happening. But right now, it's a vacant wasteland, so I wouldn't be touching there. You know, Royal Arsenal, fine. Kidbrooke, fine. There's lots of transport links in there. But they're also potential, and all these are regeneration potentials, okay, down here. But the great thing for me, it's the second cheapest area. So if we come back to this map, you know, it's the second cheapest area in London, okay? So it's called the Southeast. All right. So that's our second area. It's a whole massive area, and there's a lot of property and a lot happening in that area, okay? So let's have a look at the third area now. So the third area, for me, it runs basically, if we look at Liverpool Street, okay? So we've got Liverpool Street here, all right? Liverpool Street down to sort of Tower Gateway, and then across all the way to Canning Town, up to Stratford, okay, which is around here. And then what we've got is sort of this thing that runs along to Homerton, Dalston Junction, and then down to Liverpool Street. So this is what I call East London. This is South East London, West London, and then this is East London. Now, the reason I like this area, okay, is because the massive amount of stuff that's happening to it. Now, yes, it is driven by the Olympics, but who cares, okay? If that's the reason for it, fine, okay? There's lots happening in this area. And if we have a look on this map, what you're going to find is it's the cheapest area in London. So it's got the most potential for growth. There's all canals running down along here. Great area to invest along the canals. Obviously, they're not making more water, all right, or more waterways anyway. You know, now, for me, as always, not everywhere in these areas is the place to invest. So what you've got here is Stratford. Around Stratford, for me, I'm not touching that area, okay? Because as much as I tell my investors that this is the future hotspots, and look, I think Stratford will be, but for me, it's a bit early to jump in there right now. I think people that are jumping in there right now don't realise what's going to happen with the Olympics or what's likely to happen. As much as the government will tell you, no, it's going to be fine, there's already contracts in place and stuff happening, I think there'll be probably an 18-month to 2-year gap where everyone will be sitting around twiddling their thumbs, changing things over, and really it won't really be the place to invest or to live After that it'll start picking up. That's probably the time when we want to start buying in there. Right now we're staying away from it. But where there is along here is Commercial Road, along this DLR line. Commercial Road. See what happened, if you go back to the last boom, okay, so early 2000 boom, Canary Wharf was the place to buy. If you bought in Canary Wharf, you made money. And it spilled over along the Thames here, okay? But what's happened now is prices in here are too expensive. So now we're moving up into here. Now, for instance, there's all the lines along here, the tube lines and tube lines here. In the middle here, okay, I probably wouldn't touch it. It's called Tower Hamlets. Lots and lots of council estates. You know, you want to be sticking on your commercial road 100 to 200 metres either side of it. You know, and same with here, which is High Road, you know, Shoreditch High Road, and basically this road along here, all the way out to Romford effectively. There's lots happening along here. Maybe not so far as Romford just yet. It's a little bit too far out, but sticking in this sort of area here, fine. All the canals are along here, if you can get along those sort of things. Up here, in fact, if you go to, where is it? Manor House, this sort of area, that's Woodbury Downs, you know, another area, going to be fantastic. 2 reservoirs, overlooks the whole of London, really, really nice Berkeley home site, massive regeneration site, lots of council estates that are being torn down and rebuilt as brand new homes, but lots of also private residences too. So really good area. You know, you've got somewhere like, you know, King's Cross, right? This sort of area. King's Cross traditionally has been the sort of the red light district, if you like, of London. You know, very seedy, not the sort of place you want to go to. But right now, it's just launched the residential phases, and it looks fantastic. I live about 300 metres from King's Cross, so I know the area really well. Our office is about 300 metres from King's Cross as well. I don't live in my office, by the way. But the area right now, because they've just launched it, it's on a high. They're making lots of sales at full price. There's no deals in there. Okay, give it probably 6-12 months when things start to slow off a bit. The initial launch momentum has worn off. That's when we'll probably be going in there and doing deals in there. All right. So there's lots and lots happening, but we'll take you through these, because what I want to show you on the next thing is I want to pull this to bits. Okay, I want to pull this maps to bits. Okay, so what I want to take you through now is the regeneration sites. So the top 15 London regeneration sites. There's a report out that gives you the top 100 regeneration sites, and these are actual regeneration sites that are happening right now in progress. There's actually a whole host of other ones that are planned to be started in the future. I won't go into those. I'm sticking to the ones that are just actually happening, and have been happening for a while, where there's measurable results. Because obviously, if something's not started, and this is when I talk about budgeted for and planned for. Okay, it's so essential that it's budgeted for, that you look at when you look at regeneration. Because so many times you'll read a newspaper and say there's something planned. Great, that doesn't mean there's finance for it. So it's essential that you actually consider that and think about that. Okay, so if we have a look at the top 15 regeneration sites, okay, so basically these are the top 15. If you have a look, there's probably about 30,000 new homes just in London itself. There's probably 30 billion pounds being spent in regeneration activities. And if you look at where most of them are, you're going to see that most of them are in the east and the southeast, okay, of London. Historically, London has been very much a north and west is where the expensive place is. What's happening is the dynamics are changing now. Okay, there's more money being spent east and south. Okay, and that's going to bring up those areas. So these are the areas we're looking for. Now we've had a look at the 3 specific hotspots that I'm talking about, but let's have a look at the 15 regeneration sites. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a red pen. I'm going to draw on the map that we've got all the spots on the of regeneration. Okay, so let's have a look at the map. All right, so we've got first Olympic Park, £6 billion. So we're talking about here. Okay, 6 billion. We're talking about Wembley City, 4.46. Where's Wembley? Wembley. There you go. So there's Wembley over there. Okay, we're talking about Brent Cross. Yeah, another £4 billion are being spent. Okay, we've got Greenwich Peninsula. All right, which is pretty much, we're talking all around here. Okay, 10,000 new homes, £4 billion being spent. We've got Canning Town Customs House. Okay, around here. All right, we've got King's Cross, okay, which is around here. We've got then Stratford City, which is actually the actual shopping centre that you've got there. You've got Westfield White City, which is out here. Okay, you've got Elephant Castle, which is down here. Okay, it's 1.5 billion. Okay, you've got Royal Arsenal out here. Okay, Royal Arsenal, 2,500 new properties. You've got Silverton Quays, Royal Docks, which is out here again. Okay, you're looking at 1 billion. Woodbury Down, which is up here in Manor House. Okay, now the likes of Woodbury Down, £4,600. It's an absolute massive place. We've got what do we got? Kidbrooke Village. Okay, Kidbrooke Village was about here. Okay, 4,800 new homes. You've got Greenwich Millennium Village, another 3,000, which you can pretty much talk about it being down here. And then you've got Graham Park, which is up here. So they're just the top 15. They're just the top 15 places or regeneration sites. Okay. Now, if you have a look, a lot of them are certainly this way, in the north and south, and certainly, around that Greenwich area, around that East London area. The great thing about this, and look, just because you've got regeneration, it doesn't mean we're going to invest right on the regeneration. What we want to look for is those areas around it where the fundamentals are still really good, the prices haven't gone up. Because actually, if you're looking at somewhere like Stratford, not investing in Stratford. Why? Because what's happening with the Olympics, there's lots of money being pumped in there. It was an industrial wasteland, so it's just being brought up to speed. Now that it's being brought up to speed, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the Olympics to happen. I think there's probably going to be 18 months, 2 years before we're going to see or anyone wanting to invest in there. Certainly investors. There's lots of investors getting in there now, but I think they're getting in too early. I think what we need to do is wait for the Olympics, give it that 18 months, 2 years while people fight over what's happening and work out what's happening and start to build the infrastructures there, but actually put people on the ground there and people move in there and live, and it starts to become desirable to live. That's when we want to start getting in there. So, they're just, you can see the red dots everywhere, you can see the overlap with the blue, plus, anywhere in zone 1, zone 2, that sort of central area, fantastic, So, whilst I'm not saying my hotspots, I'm not saying don't invest in other places. In actual fact, we've got some fantastic sites in other places. Woodbury Downs would be an example. Stanmore Place would be an example. There's all sorts of stuff everywhere that we've got outside of those hotspots. But these are where I see the weight of regeneration, the weight of change happening in those areas. So, guys, look, that's the one thing. Regeneration is one thing. But let's have a look at some of the other things, okay? So, population growth. If we're looking at the population growth over the next 20 years, okay, what we're talking about is most of the population or growth is going to be happening in the east of London, okay, so and out the east. And this is what I talked about. The north and west was generally what traditional. We're moving much more. The demographics are moving out to the east, and that's important. So we're going to be putting a lot more money, a lot more investment into that area, just as developers and just as everyone will be. There'll be more jobs created. That's population growth. Let's look at the employment. Again, you can see the same picture, okay? More jobs being created out in the east, and that's fundamental to why these areas are the areas that I'm sort of looking at. Now, there's other things happening, because if you look from Royal Docks, okay, across now Royal Docks, which is basically here, straight across to Greenwich, there's going to be a Emirates airline, they're calling it. And effectively what that is it's basically one of those, the cars that the cars that go on the cable cars, one of those straight across the Thames, and that's ready for June 2012. Stuff like this helps areas out. One of the big problems we have in Royal Docks and that whole area is that it's on the DLR. It's very slow trains. There's lots of development going in there, but it's not somewhere that I've really favoured because it takes so long to get out there. And it is quite a way out. Okay. The other thing that most people aren't aware of outside of the UK, but certainly inside the UK they are, is Crossrail. And Crossrail goes from effectively Heathrow and Maidenhead in one side all the way across into Essex, down to Woolwich. So basically you've got directly across from west to east, a train line going in 2017. Most of the places on those train lines have already been factored in, okay? So the price has already been increased, the price has already been factored in those areas. So if you're looking to go grab a bargain, you're probably not going to because of Crossrail. But The fundamentals, fantastic. Okay, brand new rail, high-speed rail would be great. You know, so that side of it works really, really well. All right, so I just want to finish off with two things. The first one is I want to show you on a Google map. So if you type in map on Google Maps and London, this is what you'll come up with. Okay, zoom in, and then what you're going to have is basically Kensington. You got this area here, okay, which is the area I'm talking about. Okay, so that's the West London hotspot. Okay, then we've got pretty much all the way through here, all the way through here, all the way out to about here. That's actually the South London, Southeast London area, and then you've got all the way out through here, up to there, and all the way around there. That's the East London area. Okay, so I can zoom in on those, but if you jump on a map, it's really simple, and you can have a look around. If you've got the tube map, you'll see the tube map. Okay. Now the other thing, if you want to have a look on this and just see where my areas are approximately, if you go to LondonPropertyHotspots.com, London Property Hotspots is my new London property site. It's specifically aimed at London property and educating overseas investors, Asian investors, about Asian and Middle East investors about London, what to watch out for, what to be aware of, you know, what the market's like, the deceptions, the myths, all this sort of stuff. So on there, if you just click on the map, okay, which is on the main browser, it brings up its own things. Now, we've got some developments on there. We're just adding more to that, but effectively we're only adding developments where we've completed them totally, not ones that are in process. So there's a whole host of other ones that are off plan and all that sort of stuff. But we're adding those. And you can literally click and get rid of them, all right? So if you don't want hotspots, but you'll see what you can do is you can put my hotspots on. You've got the West London one, you've got the South East London one, and you've got the East London one. So you can actually play with that. You can put in Zone 1 and Zone 2, and you can see where those are. Plus also what you've got, if you really want to get into it, is you can actually put all the tube lines on. And if you wanted to, you could actually put all the tube stations. You know, and then obviously being Google, you can zoom down and you can see what all the stations are. And if you hover over them, they work perfectly, and they tell you what the stations are. So you can actually put all this stuff in there and actually just play with it a bit and just see where things are and where they head and get a bit familiar with the actual places. Okay, because the London tube map that I showed you looks nothing like the real London tube map, which is that one there. Okay, but yeah, that's just a simple tool. We're actually still got some code to go to make it look a bit more beautiful, but effectively it's all the information's there. But if you go on there, there's everything on there. We talk about the regeneration areas, we talk about the sales deceptions, the myths associated with London property. I've got my blog, we've got various videos that we can, you can download and look at that are applicable to, the property trend cycle, and a whole range of things that I've actually got there. So it's worth jumping onto that. Anyway, guys, have a great day, and remember, live with passion.